pretty important that I become part of the stream. I got frightened there. It said I was live, but I hadn't actually added myself to the stream, which is foolishness on my part. Let me open it in YouTube and check that we're rolling. We are. Okay, ladies and gents, I'm going to do this very, very quickly. The reason being I just uploaded a video on EMDR, and people in the comments seem to be getting confused between EMDR and MDMA. What? EMDR is the eye movement repatterning technique where you do a series of visual wipes on people. A visual wipe from NLP is this across the eyes. You remember from the old films where somebody's being hypnotized, they'll dangle a watch in front of the eyes and the eyes go left and right. It does something to you. It puts you into a trance. I mean, it's a pattern interrupt. It's a very unusual thing to be doing. So it will alter your state. If you have a good relationship with your therapist and you are what would be referred to as a willing client, then you can get results using that technique. I don't think the results are particularly going to be particularly profound, and I don't think it's going to work on a significant enough number of people who have PTSD or CPTSD and would be considered treatment adverse. That's who I speak to. People who are so traumatized that actually getting treated and healing sends them into an emotional flashback. So I was going to say I'm not impressed by it. I know that there's nothing there. But as I said in that video, if you have two people come together in a therapeutic setting and there's trust and rapport and you desire change and you desire healing, there are many things that you could do that would take you to that place. Just that care and attention and the pattern interrupt of being in a new space for somebody. I don't doubt that if I trained people to do chanting, so like you'd sit there with your Spartan life coach, I was like Spartan life coach therapist. It doesn't need to be Spartan life coach plus Spartan life coach. You sit there with them and you talk for half an hour. You set an intent. You're like, I want to heal. I want to feel better. I don't want repetitive thoughts of this and that occurring. And we said, okay, we're going to do some chanting with you and I together with that intent. And then you spin the chant wheel and it comes up with like the Gayatri mantra or the Ganesh mantra or, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. You're right. Now we've set the intent that we're going to heal. Yes, yes. Let's begin the chanting. We'll do 7 minutes. We'll do this many rounds. How do you feel? This is a lot of these systems do this. On a scale of 1 to 10, has the trauma gone up or has it gone down, or do you feel the same? And then you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, I feel slightly better. Let's chant again. And you move forward and you do this process several times. You would feel better. There will be across a big population, because for a psychology experiment like that, you'd need really hundreds, preferably thousands of people to go through that process and to self-report, yes, I feel better, and then they would. And then you'll say to me, what does that mean? Are you making a case for chanting? No, I'm not going to include EMDR or EFT. I'm not going to include, even though I feel traumatized, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. I will include reminders. There's physical reminders on the How to Manage Contact with a Narcissist course. There's on the free course, How to Stop Emotional Flashbacks. There's the tapping of the fingers for you to take care of yourself, because I'm not there with you. So I can't do it. It would be a very different experience if I followed you around for a day whilst you're going about your daily business and you're going to the supermarket and dropping the kids off at school or going to work, and I'm like a meter behind you going, how you doing? How's it going now? What are you thinking about right now? How's this make you feel? Is this all right? Yeah? Feeling good? All right, let's go. What's the next thing we're going to do? That, if I'm hovering over you, would be you can see, right? It's a very, very different experience. We sort of think of therapy magically. There are many things that we think of in magical terms. Martial arts is one of them. You can have a room full of experienced SWAT team members whose critical thinking will go to swearing swear words in front of your eyes, and I've witnessed this happen, if you start talking about Bruce Lee, or you start talking about Kung Fu, or you start talking about ninjas. And I've lived this. I've looked at these guys and I'm going, why would you accept this total dross when you know you've had more fights than the instructor, you've seen more violence than the instructor? Why are you accepting it? It's magical thinking. Love, magical thinking. Money, magical thinking. Sex, magical thinking. Therapy, magical thinking. It's all the same stuff. The same principles by which you would teach somebody to play the guitar or to play tennis will apply directly to how they overcome trauma. The exact same principles in principle. It will be exactly the same. These are strengths that need to be developed. They're skills that need to be developed. So when EMDR works, which it definitely does, I mean, if you go on the Wikipedia page for EMDR, they'll list all of the research that is extremely critical of it, or that equates EMDR to being about as effective as any other type of therapy. And it's like, great. At least you're doing something. I mean, I've even, because I've had a long time to think about this, I've been in this world for 23, 24 years. I've even thought about the ritual of it. Is there a religious throwback element to it? You come, you see the high priestess, you confess your sins. Did you dream of killing people? Yes. Did you want to, smash somebody's head in the supermarket? Yes, I did. Did you do this? Did you do this sin? Did you? Yes, I confess my sins. He goes, I take your sin. Now we will do the magical process, whatever that is. It might be like auric chi cleansing. It might be Reiki. I've had good experiences with Reiki. I was in a seminar for Russian martial arts, and a bunch of guys who weren't there to learn this were taught Russian folk style hands-on healing for about 20 minutes, and then we tried it on each other, and I tell you, I got definite results from it. What do you presume from that? So to drugs. Magical thinking is the setup. We like the idea as human beings that something outside of us is going to make everything okay. We don't like the idea that we have to be part of the process. I know that we don't, because I've spent the last 6 years going against the grain. The last 6 years, I'm like, no, I can't fix you. I'm not your healer. I'm not a guru. They can't fix you. They're not your healers. They're not your gurus. You must, because of the nature of the damage that's been done, you must be a part of the process. And I've lost thousands of people that just don't want to listen to me anymore, because I keep pushing that, and it drives them crazy, because they live in a culture, an ideological soup, that tells them, no, the solution is out there. Imagine that your whole life, you're brainwashed, indoctrinated into thinking, just take this. This is Activia, actually. It's actually pretty good, Yoli. It's pretty good. I quite like it. That's product placement. Activia, I want my 25 pence. Come on, you corporate bastards. So you're told it's out there. The government has the solution. Your church has the solution. The pharmaceutical companies have the solution. And people are brainwashed into that, and it appeals to human weakness. It appeals to human software faults. Then somebody else comes along and goes, that's all bullshit. That's not going to work. What you're doing hasn't worked. You know it hasn't worked, and yet you're still doing it. It's time to stop. And people get irritated. And part of the irritation is that they're living inside of a cognitive dissonance. Because some dickhead like me will come along and go, didn't you do a seminar on this 11 years ago? Yes, but I did it with the Right Honourable Venerable Shri Ganushtapusht, and now I'm going to do it, and they were found to be embezzling money, and now I'm going to do auric anal unicorn chi cleansing, where you take the unicorn's horn up your butt. That was the missing piece from the last time I did this with the Right Venerable, and everything's going to be okay. And then you go and spunk your fucking $1,000 at the wall, and then I see you after the seminar 2 days later. I've literally lived this with people I know here in Ibiza in the last month. And I'm like, how are you doing? And I can see on their faces they're in an emotional flashback. It was wonderful. I knew it would be wonderful. I told you it would be wonderful, and it was. Like, oh, goody, goody, gumdrops. MDMA, acid, peyote, ayahuasca, my humble opinion, way over pushed as therapeutic shortcuts. And what happens? You know, want to know what happens? Funnily enough, these are all exogenous drugs. These are drugs that come from exo, which is outside, that you take, usually through your face hole, but you can inject them, you can snort them, whatever, you can smoke them. Usually you just eat them. The reason why they don't work, but people keep saying that they might, is because of the endogenous drugs that kind of a conversation has. I was with a meetup group for a long while actually, for a couple of years, and they would meet every Wednesday, and every fucking week the subject of DMT would come up because that bloody documentary, so-called documentary called DMT, the Spirit Molecule, was out, and it was popular, and it was, you know, a la mode at that time. And so I'd sit there with these comfortable middle-class intellectual types going on and bloody on about DMT and how wonderful it was. Not one of them had taken it. Not one of them had taken it. Not one of them was making moves to take it. Not one of them was moving in a circle where it's likely where they were going to end up taking it. And nothing would have made them shit their little pants faster than me pulling some out and going, right, guys, let's have a go. There is a pleasure in talking. You know, most people who ask me about EMDR say this: I heard it was good. From who? I heard it was good, and I'm thinking about doing it. I'm like, why don't you just rub your nipples? I mean, it's faster and, you know, takes less effort than this. If you just want to give yourself pleasure with the idea of doing something perpetually, there are faster ways of getting that done. I heard it was good. I read it in a magazine. They didn't usually read in a magazine. Nobody reads magazines now. They heard about it on a forum, or they saw it in a news article. I'm like, go and do EMDR. Stop talking about it. Go and see how it is. Stop barking on about it and go. You don't want to. Why? For the same reason you don't want to take DMT. For the same reason you don't want to take ayahuasca. One, it's a pain in the arse and it's a hassle. You're going to have to go to a place, pay some stranger money, park where you don't normally park, and that's stressful. Go to some weird clinic and then sit there and have that awkward conversation, and then they're going to do a process on you and all of that. That is a big put off. The second big put off is unconsciously, you know, there's a very high chance that it won't work. And then what are you going to do? Then what are you going to do? I took DMT. It was a hell of a trip, slightly frightening, did nothing. I'm exactly the same person I was before I took it. I know this. I know people who've taken ayahuasca. And I'm like, okay, now between me and you, you're not on the ayahuasca marketing team now. What did it do for you? Everybody, every single person I've done that with has said it was a totally underwhelming experience. And I'm like, so who's out there saying it's great? Well, I saw all this with DMT. The same middle-class twerps who want to be seen as dangerous psychonauts of the unconscious, who break the boundaries and go, give me a fucking break. You can't sit there and write down words that are in alignment with the emotions you're feeling today, but you want a posture that you're some fucking brave psychonaut going to the edges of the unconscious. Please. It's a pointless posturing. MDMA, acid, DMT, ayahuasca, there is research that indicates that it's useful. It wouldn't surprise me at all. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if it was useful. What do they all generate? Well, if you've never taken them before, you're guaranteed the generation of neuroplasticity. There's fear, there's the trauma of the new experience, and there's what the drugs actually do as exogenous drugs. Oh, to close the loop on the endogenous drugs thing, you're just getting a hit of dopamine. You're just getting a hit of serotonin. I'm thinking, not booked. I haven't booked it for next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Got to drop the kids off at swimming first. I'm thinking of going to EMDR because I heard it does this. Fucking go then. Just go. What is it going to cost you? 50 quid. Just go then. But they don't. Why do they do it? Because of the dopamine hit. I want to keep talking about this. I want the serotonin, the dopamine, and like I'm talking about it, and it's like I'm doing it, and then I can engage people in a conversation about whether it works or not. To what end? To like do it, don't do it, move on with your life. Why are we still? Why 3 years later are we all still talking about whether DMT does this, that, and the other thing? I'm not saying it's useless. I'm saying the vast majority of electric ink that is spilled and is being spilled now in the comments, I haven't even read them, will be endless pontification about the potentiality of what might be. And you don't want to crash through. You don't. It's like you're looking at the box with Schrodinger's cat in it, and you don't want to open the fucker up. You want to stand around it, rubbing your hands, rubbing your nipples, going, oh, it might be dead. It might be alive. Oh, who knows? The excitement. Fucking open the box, and then we'll know. Oh, no, that ruins the game. Because then we're going to have to walk away and go, actually, EMDR was as underwhelming as every other experience on the planet. Ayahuasca was underwhelming. The last person I spoke to was like, the people running the ceremony were weird. The setting was odd. I wasn't comfortable. It wasn't an intense experience. I didn't get spoken to. I wasn't given this, that. And I'm like, God, it's a real shame because, you know, you've got people like Terence McKenna, bangs on about DMT. Graham Hancock bangs on about ayahuasca. And I'm like, what is it with these guys where I don't think that it's a pretense in their case, but they're getting so much more. And you want to know what my theory is? My theory is that A, they're really intelligent. You might not like Graham Hancock. You might not like Terence McKenna. I mean, okay, fine. There's people out there who criticize them, but nobody's saying they're dumb guys. They're not dummies. These are intelligent men. Terence McKenna was a very intelligent man. If you're looking at baseline IQ, he was way above average. Graham Hancock, way above average. Both of them are writers. Both of them are writers. Both of them are writers, professional writers. In fact, I think Graham Hancock was a journalist before he was a writer. Both are storytellers. I am tempted to believe that they constructed they make it sound like the most dramatic, amazing Book of Revelation style, you know, apocalypse of the unveiling of truth that you could possibly imagine. They make it sound like that, but that's what they do. They lend words to subjective experience. They lend words, they create stories, they're story weavers. Terence McKenna even said, we live inside of language. And he was a good public speaker. You might not like him, but by any stretch of the imagination, compared to the average professional public speaker, the guy's up there. He's a black belt. So I wonder if that's why there's the middle class posturing. It's always middle class people. You will show me the blue collar guy or girl who's like going, oh, I might do EMDR and I might do it. They haven't got time. They haven't got the time. They haven't got the resources. If they're going to posture to sort of flex the ego, that won't be how they do it. It's extremely bourgeoisie to go on and on about these things. It's like, do it, don't do it. Stop boring everybody with, you know, pacing around Schrodinger's box. Open the box and then we'll know. In my case, I've always been very dismissive of my LSD experiences. Therapeutically, I would argue that they didn't help me at all and they made me worse. There's actually there's a couple of books written by John Cleese, the comedian from Monty Python, the British actor from Monty Python, and his therapist. And one of the later books that I got when I was about 25 years old actually cited studies saying if you have certain types of, they said schizophrenia, probably we should say like, if you're on the spectrum for certain psychotic disorders, you absolutely should never take acid because it always results in a traumatic experience. And I read that and I went, it's had terrible, terrifying experiences. The usefulness of acid probably isn't to me personally. Like I'm talking my own subjective experience now. When I took acid, was it useful to me therapeutically? No, but let me speak in its defense now. It might have been useful to you therapeutically. I might be able to see things, do things, think about things in a way that I wouldn't have otherwise because I took acid. But I'm not going to sit here and say, go take acid, go take MDMA, go take ayahuasca. If you're emotionally dysregulated, you could be sent into a major catastrophic emotional flashback before you've even taken the drug, just by the nature of the ceremony. I can't even remember who it was, but somebody was, it might have been somebody at one of my seminars actually saying to me, thank you. Was it like in the break time or something? They probably caught me on the way to the toilet or at the urinal. So this whole conversation could be taken, could be from the urinal, I can't remember. Thank you for saying that about ayahuasca. I went to an ayahuasca ceremony. The person leading it was clearly a bit of a fraud and a bit cluster B spectrum. Of course, I mean, like, that actually makes sense. They found a position of power over vulnerable people who are looking for solutions. Of course they would. And that the ceremony itself, before they took the drugs, was actually extremely, to use their language, triggering. They found it very, very provocative to be there. I'm not going to tell people to do that. I mean, I wouldn't even say, okay, come to Ibiza, we'll do it here. At least I can control the environment. I don't know what would, you got to be careful, man. I don't know what's going to set you off. A bunch of strangers get together. One of the strangers meets another stranger there, and they happen to look like their, Scottish former husband's mother-in-law, who was, whatever. Like, it's to be some, synaptic connection to some other experience and cause real trouble. My thing is neuroplasticity. So where me and the drugs people meet is neuroplasticity is good, because if you're traumatized, you've got laid down stiff, harsh patterns of neural pathways that are taking you in the same direction again and again. That's what catastrophic thinking is. That's what black and white thinking is. There's actually a physical problem. We can't see it yet. We don't have the technology to be like, oh, this neural pathway is the catastrophic thinking one. But catastrophic thinking comes from having catastrophe burnt into the neural network from reality. So you go, oh my God, reality is catastrophic. And therefore, thereafter, you go look for the catastrophe because one's coming. Boom, catastrophic thinking. What can heal that? Neuroplasticity. But I'm really, really sedate with this shit. I'm like, don't go to another country and take a drug that makes you poo and vomit, which apparently ayahuasca does. That would freak me out. I'd be like, in the woods? Ew. No, it's nasty. That's triggering, man. I'll be into that. Don't do that. You can get neuroplasticity enough from getting out of bed half an hour earlier. Maybe do some affirmations. Maybe go for a walk. Maybe read a book that you wouldn't otherwise read, or listen to a podcast you wouldn't otherwise listen to. And you'd be like, well, this is not very brave psychonaut smashing the boundaries and disappearing off into space. Yeah, but I'm talking to people who are like me, who are codependents, have a very strong fawn response, and are very sensitive. If you're very sensitive, don't take acid. It's bloody harsh. It's a harsh, harsh fuzz. I spoke to Pierre about this recently, and I was like, based on my conversations with other people with their experience of acid, yeah, I don't know what was around when I was younger. Like, I took it in the 90s. Maybe it was all double dipped. Maybe it was all a triple. I don't know. But my experiences were brutal, absolutely brutal. And more often than not, terrifying. It was like being trapped on a fun fair ride that you couldn't get off for 12 hours. There were funny moments, there'd be pleasant moments, and on the sort of the useful, revelatory stuff would be in the last 3 hours as you're sort of coming down a bit and you're past the panic. That's when you can pontificate a little bit and be like, oh no, language is for this. In the Garden of Eden, we were animals. Adam and Eve were on all fours, and whatever it is, whatever the thing is that you see, that you experience. Because this thing with acid, like people go, oh, acid, it's hallucinations. It's like, yeah, kind of. The kind of visual, kind of auditory hallucinations, but it's not, oh, I'm seeing a pink elephant. I know that's a pink elephant. That looks like a pink elephant there. It's not. It's not real, but it's doing something to you. It's having an impact. I'll take questions. Questions, please make them 1 sentence long. Make them understandable to a human being of average intelligence, and end them in a question mark, which is the squiggle with the dot underneath that. I shot meth for 11 months with bipolar 1 and PTSD. Not recommended. I'm glad you're still alive. I didn't actually know that you could shoot meth. That's how innocent I am. I thought there was only one way of taking meth. Wow. What's MDT? I don't know. Kate says, so basically there are no shortcuts. None that I'm aware of. None that I'm aware of. UG Rose says, whatever makes your brain work, new concepts without more trauma is nice. Lol. Right? Right. Like, go and learn how to dance. Go and do yoga if you've never done yoga before, or do a different style, or take up Tai Chi. Like, keep learning new stuff, keep pushing, keep doing stuff that you find enjoyable, because you're kind of, you're getting into other realms of consciousness space. Like 5 years ago, the idea of me taking up dance would have been a side-splitting joke. Now, I'm like, if I don't regularly go to a bachata class, I'm like, I miss it. I don't feel as good as I would do if I'd been. That's all neuroplasticity. In my life, I'd never moved rhythmically with compliance with another human being. Martial arts is arrhythmic and non-compliant. I was like, well, I was a martial arts instructor for years. I'm sure I can take up dance. And I was like, so hard. It took me 3 months to learn how to move on the rhythm instead of outside the rhythm, and with the person instead of against them. Elizabeth says, you're never really sure what you're getting with LSD. It can contain different things they cut it with, including some types of poison. Is that true for LSD? It's true for most drugs. I mean, LSD, it literally just goes on a piece of paper, doesn't it? It's definitely true for other drugs, definitely. My mental challenge is learning how to use different art supplies. I feel you. Sometimes I have to do editing, and I'm like, this is a mental challenge for me. Would acid be used to reconnect with yourself, or could it end up being a crutch over time? Don't use any exogenous external drugs to reconnect with yourself. Think about it. You're already you. You're already connected to you. You don't need to go outside to go back inside. You just go inside. This body, this moment, these feelings, these emotions, this somatic experience right now is enough. It's acceptable. Accept that and be in the moment, and you're reconnected. You don't need drugs for that. Fran says, the willingness to heal is, I believe, a key component. Oh, I can put these on screen. Sorry, I'm not using this properly. The willingness to heal is, I believe, a key element. That's what makes Reiki work too, actually. Both are engaging willingly in a process of healing the body, does the rest. Mary says, I can't dance. You should learn. It's good. Does cannabis have a negative effect on your mental health? It does when other idiots are smoking it around me, because it makes me really angry with them. I'm not big on it. I'm not, the whole thing of being like, drugs are cool, drugs are cool. Listen, do what you want. And I may choose in my life as a sovereign individual to take drugs again. It's nobody's business but my own. Nobody's. Don't tell people drugs are cool. They're fucking not. Don't act like they're cool. That's my thing. And so, I look at somebody like Joe Rogan and the way he's quite rigid, like he's an open-minded guy, but he's quite rigid about cannabis and he's defensive about it. And I'm like, if you're rigid and defensive, it kind of is an indication that maybe you should take 6 months off and see how you feel. He's like, no, it's fine. It makes me better at jiu-jitsu. I write better stand-up comedy. And I'm like, do you? How do you know? What are you comparing it to? You've got to have the opposite. Like if you took 6 months off and like, wow, my stand-up comedy's got like my Brazilian jiu-jitsu is fucking, I'm hitting submissions I never hit before, right? So I'm not impressed by cannabis. I'm not impressed by cannabis usage. I don't think there's this weird like we all smoke weed. It's so fucking cool. I'm like, it's a junk drug anyway. You get high. My last experience with it was in California. It was edibles. I'm like, this is bullshit. It's boring. I'm not learning anything. It's not stimulating me. I don't even know. So yeah, it's bad for my mental health when I'm around my mates and they're smoking it. It makes me want to smack them. How do even small amounts of drugs, a glass of wine a day, affect healing? It says Daisy. So where are you up to? And I don't mean you, Daisy. I mean for people watching this video because you've asked a good question. Let me put it on screen. How do even small amounts of drugs, like a glass of wine a day, affect healing? If I'm in a phase where I have something to be healed and I'm not doing well, because healing is not linear, my rule would be not one drop of anything. It's a glass of wine, it makes me feel, no, like you do you. But if I'm serious about resolving an issue, not a pipette of alcohol on my tongue. I'll tell you where this came from. It came from when I used to do nightclub security, and I was the head doorman, but very young. They made me a head doorman very, very young, like 26. I was a head doorman of a club, of several clubs actually, running teams of 8 to 12 guys. This is back in the day. It was a little bit freer then. It was a little bit wilder, and some of the lads, when they finished their shift, so you'd have lads finishing at 2, and then you'd have lads who would finish at like 12. Some of them who finished at 12 stayed in the club, and then they'd drink. They'd get a freebie. They get, I don't know what you call it now. It was called, it had a term for it. They get like free drink, and then they buy a drink. And they're a fucking nightmare. And then I did it. And I remember having a mouthful of, so somebody was drinking whiskey and Coke, which I personally despise, but he bought too many, whatever. He gave me a mouthful. And I got in a fight within 5 minutes, and I wasn't on duty. And I was like, how? I've gone for 6 months working this door 4 nights a week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, not punched a person. Maybe I had to lead people out, maybe like, come on, sir, out. Maybe push people a little, or pull them out, maybe a little. I was punching a guy in the face in 5 minutes, justified. And you go, well, what happened? I was like, listen, this is what happened. Totally justified, but it hadn't happened without the alcohol. So I was like, that's it. I saw too much of guys taking a sip of alcohol and then belligerence. And instead of being professional and boundaried and handling the other person, all of a sudden they're taking it personally. All of a sudden, like, do you know what I'm saying? It's a boundary. Alcohol is a boundary breaking drug. It breaks your boundaries between internal and external and internal and internal. Don't do it if you're serious about healing, is my dogma. Other people say other things. Look, it's up to you. When I run meetup groups, I say to people, don't drink. Oh, it's in the evening, you're meeting up in this cool cafe and they serve this nice fucking New Zealand wine there. Don't do it. I've told this story on the channel before. I ran a meetup in Birkenhead at like it's a cool place. It's kind of like what would you call it? Like a hippie, not hippie, hipster sort of a cafe in Hamilton Square. Going back years ago now. A very well qualified psychiatrist came to the meetup. Like numerous letters after her name. She'd done this style of therapy, this style, published author, published research, psychiatrist. She's a doctor. She's a doctor. 1 glass of red wine. She's not even there. She's only there to hear what I have to say and maybe to generate new customers. I don't even know. She was like, don't worry about me. I'm a full-blown emotional flashback of after half of a small glass of red wine, a scene. We had a scene at the table with like 18 people. Everybody's got like they're saying they have CPTSD, they're traumatized, and a psychiatrist, the healer at the table, is having a meltdown, a total meltdown after half of a little glass of wine. Why? Because this subject is triggering. If you're emotionally dysregulated, you can't afford it. Stay sober. It's real fucking easy. Look after your health, get to bed on time, get up early, engage in exercise, drink water. I love a coffee, but you've got to restrict that shit as well. You can't afford a hangover. You can't afford a come down. You can't afford addictions. You can't, like, it's CPTSD. I'm sorry, but it sucks. But you don't get away with doing what other people who are highly resilient can do. We're not that resilient. We are much more sensitive. And so you've got to be a lot more careful. So I would say, no, not one glass of wine a day, unless you're not in a healing phase and everything is all good and life is good. If you're looking to heal, tighten up on the physical stuff first. First and foremost, I'm in a healing phase. I'm going to do an hour of emotional literacy every day, and then I'm going to drink a glass of wine afterwards. No. Let me see. Yes, Joe Rogan. Here we go. Let me put it on screen. Yes, Joe Rogan said you shouldn't smoke it every day, but I think he probably does every other day. He does edibles, and they're just insane. All good, all good. The only, it's not even a problem I have with him because he's speaking to adults, but he does speak to young people as well. It's the normalizing of that bothers me. It's the normalizing. Like if I drank every day and I was on here going, "Hey, let's fucking get pissed every day," it you know, you're in a position of authority. It goes in. I'd never do, even if that was my life, which it isn't. I wouldn't be like, "Oh, it's okay. You know, you could smoke weed every day, or you could do edibles or whatever it is." You can't do that. You just can't do it. Don't normalize drug taking. And then what slightly bothers me is he kind of uses this "it's natural" argument. And I'm like, how is it? Yeah, if you dig it out the ground, go through some weird, lengthy process with it, dry it, wrap it up, and then smoke it, it's not like what does that mean? It's not that by that logic, it's about as natural as cocaine. Because you have to go through a lengthy chemical process that involves a lab. You need a laboratory to make cannabis. You need a laboratory to. One of my friends, sadly, he's passed away now. That was his thing for years. I mean, he said it was his job. He was a criminal. But for years he did that, and I saw his laboratories and the amount of work. And if he got one thing wrong or missed, I don't know, it's like the cycles of when the leaves are gives a fuck. I don't even care. It would all go to pot. It would all go wrong. Isn't that funny? In English, if we say, I don't know if you're England or Brit, but when we say it's gone to pot, it means it's fucked. It's ruined. Interesting coincidence. So it's not natural. Oh, it's natural, man. It grows in the earth. So poisons grow in the earth. Like there's mushrooms you can take that would kill you stone dead inside of 5 hours. They grow in the earth. What kind of a logic is that? So yeah, anyway, I'm not gonna go off on a rant about that. I like Joe Rogan. Sober is hard if you haven't been sober for a good while. At that point, I would be looking for professional help because that sounds like alcohol dependency to me. Alcohol is the same chemical found in fuels for cars, not healthy for human tissues. I like it. You know, I love a gin and tonic. I love wine. You know, if it's good and it's the moment, it's great. But I don't do much of it. And I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, it doesn't have a negative impact and like recreate some post hoc story, some narrative where it's like it's totally harmless. It's not totally harmless. How can I better control impulses that tell me to do drugs instead of feeling the feels and healings? Any tips on what to do? Well, you know, everybody who's avoiding emotional literacy and feeling the feelings is effectively doing drugs. So if I go and play video games for 2 hours instead of feeling my feelings, I'm still doing drugs. It's just the drugs that I'm doing are being generated endogenously. I'm not snorting fat lines of coke, but I am doing something that induces a chemical reaction in my brain that changes the way I feel instead of it. to get to the point where you can do the emotional literacy exercises, you do need to reduce the emotional flashbacks. So I would be focused on stopping the emotional flashbacks first. There's a free course available from SpartanLifeCoach.com on how to do that. Depending on where you are in your own healing journey, your own process, that stopping emotional flashbacks exercise, you might need to work it for a month, or you might get benefit from working it for a week, but do it at least 5 times a day for at least 7 days back to back. Bob says, drugs are the extra. They certainly make me feel a bit extra, but if you don't know how to function and grow without them, the results will not be very consistent. Yeah, that's one way of looking at it. I guess you could say like ayahuasca and MDMA could be the icing on the cake, but not the cake itself. I personally, I don't think that, me personally, but there is published research that's in positive support. I gotta be honest, I haven't read it yet, but like I know it's there, but I haven't actually read it. I just know the conclusion is that it was positive. And for MDMA, for people with PTSD, I've not read the research, but it is, it's out there. Keeps jumping around. Fran says there's nothing cool talking about going into your emotions and how shocked you are at how much you repress, while talking of strange experiences makes one so interesting, right? Fear of rejection. Maybe. I mean, like, you'll frighten people if you start talking about emotions, and if you start talking about trauma and traumatic experiences, it is going to freak them out. Mike says, did you have to tell me this on a Friday? Sorry, Mike. I actually didn't know it was a Friday. I just work. It's just like, it's a work day. I actually had forgotten it's a Friday. Yeah, I'm sorry about that, mate. Have a great night, dude. Go hard. Okay, let me catch up. Joseph says, can psychotic episodes, drug-induced or trauma-induced, illuminate mind-independent reality? Illuminate mind-independent reality. Do you mean like create some sort of useful revelation or enlightenment type moment? Very possibly. Very possibly. I'd say I've probably had multiple experiences of that, more from trauma than from drugs. But given the choice, I'd rather not have had. I've had like psychic experiences, full-blown revelations, like conversations with, well, what I thought were conversations with angels, really, really weird out there stuff. But the price of admission was trauma. And I'm like, that was fun. That was fun, but I'd take my money back. You can keep the trauma, keep the trauma and keep the mystic experience. But yeah, I do think some mystical experiences are, or mystical or transcendent, let's say, experiences are trauma-induced. Absolutely, it's a good point. Parallax says, Gabor Mate does a few group therapy sessions with MDMA and would even take a small dosage himself. I'd do it with Gabor. If he's doing it, I'd do it. But I think we could do a milkshake ceremony with Gabor Mate and we'd all heal. Because on a spiritual level, he's they call Gandhi Bapu. So there are some people in the world who are Bapus, and it means like great spirit. It almost implies like you're not even just a one, and you're not a god, but you're not just one human soul. You might be a collection. You're a Bapu. So I would say if you get in contact with somebody who's a Bapu, and they don't say it like that, they don't say it with a Scottish accent. Hey lad, you're a Bapu, you know, fucking kid, Bapu, lad. A Bapu. I'm not going to do an Indian accent because somebody will be like, it's offensive. So in his case, I think if you have that big spirit energy, you literally could do a milkshake ceremony. I'm not even being facetious. You could probably let's do how to make a cupcake with Gabor, and you would heal from it. You could have a conversation with him about bus timetables, and his spirit would affect your spirit in the manga dimension, and you would be like, do you know, I just had a really long conversation with him about the Hungarian bus system, and and the traffic in Budapest, and you know, I just feel I just feel so much better. I just feel really good right now. Learning an instrument is the best drug, says Matt, our turtle spirit friend. Once you can play it, there's a never-ending place you can lose yourself. That's wonderful. There's like it's one of those things in life. I see people playing instruments, and music is in my family, in my family background, and I kind of think in like another dimension that's probably what I'm supposed to be doing, but the amount of output I do here is the agitation that I've not learned to play an instrument, because I'd probably get it all out. I'd probably be like, oh, that's great. Okay, good. Do you have anything to say about trauma? No. What do you want to do? Watch TV. Go to sleep. I'd get it all out of me. If what is within you is brought out of you, what is within you will save you. If what is within you is left inside of you, what is within you will destroy you. I really, really believe that. So yeah, I can see music being a fantastic outlet. Any kind of artistry, I'm always very impressed. Very impressed. Yes, and dancing, all artistic, real ease relay. Do you believe in ghosts? Do I believe in them? You know that some people literally believe in them like they're gods, right? Or not gods, but like demigods. So you have people, I'll need to get the people who do this on the channel. I have friends who believe in this. It's very complicated, but they actually believe in and pray to ghosts, the spirits of dead people, maybe not even people they know. It's really complicated system. But yeah, no, me personally, it's not part of my reality. It was a part of my reality, and it no longer is, because I didn't feel like it was serving me very well to believe that there were spirits like geographically located, which doesn't even fucking make any sense if you think about it. You know, you're a non-local entity, but you love hanging around the Burger King in fucking Bevington. Like, why would you do that? Oh, because, you know, he lost his wife's engagement ring there. Oh, get the fuck out. It's stupid. It doesn't make sense. Like, if you could go anywhere in the universe, would you hang around some shitty Asda supermarket or some dumb old castle? No, you'd go and do something with your time out there in the cosmos, I'm sure. So in the sense that you mean, no, I don't find it useful. And there's a tendency for, like, if you notice the consciousness of different communities, like I said, people are going about DMT, people are going about ayahuasca, it's quite middle class and white. It's quite middle class, he said. Did you, there's an audio break there for a second. We go on about it. Same with ghosts, like people who go on about ghosts. What kind of people is that? What kind of people go on about UFOs? What kind of people go on about the Illuminati? What kind of people go on about alien abduction? What kind of people go on about demons? But right? I'm not being a dick, am I? Like, you can guess the target audience for that. You've already constructed them inside your head because you already know. I've got a group of guys and girls here who love comics, and I've got a group of guys and girls here who love. They're really into music production. That's the first thing I saw. Or they're really into fucking yogurt, whatever, right? Music production. There's comic book fans, guys and girls, comic book fans, music production, and yogurt. And you've constructed images of like who these groups are and why they would be into that, and you build like a backstory, right? So with ghosts, I'm like, ghosts. Do you like ghosts? That's my impression of an American doing a British accent. I'm going to put on my Instagram later a video that Pierre XO sent me where he does an impression of me, and he goes, "Hello, I'm the Sporton life coach," and it sounds like Peter Dinklage doing Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. It's a shit impression of me, but it's an amazing Tyrion impression. You know where Tyrion talks in that weird, like he's been trained to sound English. Peter Dinklage, who's I think is from New Jersey, is trying to sound English, and he says there's a scene where he's in court by something at the Vale, and they go, "Confess your crimes," and he says, "When I was 12, I skinned my sausage into the turtle stew, And I'm obsessed with that line of dialogue because I'm like, what is that? What are you saying? That's not English. To your ears, like for Americans and Canadians, we're like, that sounds totally English. To our ears, it sounds Scandinavian. I think he was hanging around with that. There's the Danish guy who's playing the other Lannister. Peter Dinklage has definitely been hanging around with the guy who plays the handsome Lannister, and he acquired a posh Danish English accent over the years of shooting Game of Thrones. Nobody asked me that question. Shut up. Talk about this. I use cannabis daily. Bad. I probably should stop soon. I'm going to do an interview with Stefan Molyneux in an hour's time. I should prepare. It won't be here. It will be on 21 Studios, and I don't think it's live. I don't think you guys will get to see it for a couple of days. But that's cool, isn't it? Stefan Molyneux. I use cannabis daily. Didn't start until I was 50. I used it to help taper off 30 years of psych meds plus for sleep. Well, if it's working for you, sir, it sounds good. Sounds good. Miss Soprano. I drink and I know things, says Tyrion Lannister. He does indeed. He does indeed. From an evolutionary standpoint, what actually are emotions? Joseph. I'm glad that you came here today to ask me that question because I have an answer for you. Sometimes when I'm on long walks, right, in nature, I'll get like stuck on a question like that, and I'll have a really good, long, hard think about it. Ooh. And I think evolutionarily, emotions are fundamentally a navigational system for a non-physical environment. When our brains got really big, really fast, relatively speaking, compared to other mammals, part of what that, like the major theories are that it was food, movement, like we were moving into new environments that we had to track and hold in our heads, we had to like navigate, and language. And I would add to that emotion. Why? Probably we started with, like, if you look at emotions and overlay it onto the pleasure pain principle of biology, we move towards pleasure and that which is life affirming and that which guarantees survival. What feels good? It feels good when I'm clean after a hard day's work and I get into bed and I put the sheets around me and I lie down and I feel good. Why? Why doesn't it feel good at that point to run outside and do 50 burpees? Why? Why does running outside to do 50 burpees at that point feel bad? Whereas I get into bed and I lie on my back and I go, oh God, and the body is rewarding me. It's a reward system and it goes, feel good, feel good, feel good. Why? Survivability. I have shelter. I have safety. I have comfort. I can rest from the day, from my, hunting, gathering, which is this, like I'm hunting and gathering right now, if you want it, in an evolutionary point of view. I feel good. I'm contributing to my tribe. I'm hunting for ideas and then I gather them and then I fucking cut them open and I bring them back to the tribe and I go, ooh, and the tribe goes, ooh, yum, and then eats it, makes a trophy out or whatever, and I get rewarded. I get like the really good finger bones of the dead ancestors, the polished ones and the shiny beads. I get the shiny beads. Or maybe I just get status. But it's all evolution. It's all biology. Like the emotions, you can't, like the typical way of critiquing Western mindsets, and it's faulty, but it's functional, is that we strip everything and disassemble it instead of holding it together. So there isn't really such a thing as emotions. That's language. That's the realm of language. That's the realm of ideas. There's something between a feeling. Like I have a feeling, but you don't. When I say in English, I have a feeling, you don't know whether my fucking foot is itching or whether I feel sad. The linguistic construction is I have a feeling. You need more data before you can know what the hell I'm on about. I might be feeling hungry. So forget the itchy foot. Forget the sad feeling. I might be feeling hungry. I might have a physical need. So if we try and separate emotion as in like the realm of the emotions. It's weird, like, but we do that because we dissemble, we pull apart rather than holding the system together, which is useful and it's good up to a point. But as a logical mode of operation, it reaches a point of diminished returns. You keep pulling apart. That's how we can fly. That's how we can do open heart surgery. That's how we can, I don't know, make MDMA. That's how we can do psychotherapy, psychoanalysis. It's a pulling apart. You pull it apart into its component parts and then you restructure it. But sometimes you go too far and you pull apart too far. So emotions, the answer to your question is put the emotions back in the body and remember that the distinction between excitement and anticipation might be specious and facetious to Og the Neanderthal who needs to kill another animal today who's also a predator or is really fast prey, which is hard, and bring it back so that his tribe lives. It might be totally fatuous. When he kills the animal, his body goes, feel good. You kill calories, good, bring calories, increase survivability of self, feel good now. So he goes, oh, feel good. The prey runs away, his trap didn't work. He farted when he was like trying to sneak up on the animal and he made a noise. So he like broke the protocol or he kicked a stone and the deer or the antelope goes, oh, fuck off, Og, and then runs away. Oh, me fart in hunt. Me farted. Ooh, antelope run away. Feel bad. Like you shouldn't be feeling good when the calories escape you. So does this help you, Joseph? Like that's how put emotions back in the body. You said the evolutionary standpoint, great. So go back to the Serengeti, go back to the savannas of Africa and be like, okay, I'm here to survive. This is a harsh environment. What will make me feel good? Gaining calories, gaining shelter, going up in social hierarchy, because that will mean that you will get better or more mates. Better or more mates means more survivability of more offspring. Is there anything else? Not really. Not really. It's all really around that. Emotions, the pain pleasure principle of biology, move towards that which is life affirming, move away from things that is life denying or death inducing. That's all it is. Fear, there's death. Love, there's life. Excitement, there's something that leads to more life. Ooh, good. Dread, ooh, there's something that might, knock me off the social hierarchy and cause me to be left in the wilderness to die alone. I'm trying to think of emotions. I'm supposed to be emotionally literate. I can't think of any. Anger. Take action now. Og, why? Why is Og angry? The bear is about to eat him or his kid. Well, if he feels fear, well, he's going to feel fear and anger, but if his fear of death trumps the righteous indignation to kill the bear, his child dies and maybe he does afterwards. So all the ones who felt angry survived. You want to know why we're so neurotic? That's like, look at evolution. All the ones who got anxious didn't get eaten at night. All the ones who got really angry, oh, we have rage issues. We're rageaholics. Well, we're fucking apex predators who survived in massively harsh environments for what might be, depending on your perspective and the lens you look at it, for millions of years. If you're looking evolutionary in the full scale of evolution, it's millions of years. Not as humans, but it's millions of years. As mammals who then went on to become humans. Yeah, you'll get angry sometimes. We've only been this civilized for a minute. In fact, not a minute. We've been this civilized for 15 seconds of history. It's like, boom, that's civilized, loads of calories everywhere. Calorie dense environment, shelter dense environment. Wow, that's brand spanking new. So anxiety, like anxiety and anger are calls to action. Anger is go attack the enemy there's attacking you or your tribe. If nobody felt anger historically, we wouldn't be here. Oh, the other tribe is coming to kill us. Oh no, I was going to play chess this afternoon. I guess I'm not. You want to be like, they're trying to kill us. Get the spears. Fucking kill them first. And then the killingest nutters are the only ones who lived. The killingest nutters lived. And then they went, me live, you dead, haha. And then they reproduce. And that continues. So anxiety, I was going to go on to, is another call to action, not to attack an enemy and preserve your status, but to move, to run. Anxiety is run. But then the difficulty and the usefulness of coaches and therapists is to translate primal emotion into modern day perspectives and to be like, hey, the system is saying that there's something to be frightened of here. So you might go with anxiety. You can go, oh, so every time I feel anxiety, there's something in the environment to be scared of. And I'd be like, not really. Sometimes with anxiety, there's nothing to be scared of. And that's what makes you anxious. And you'd be like, dude, I just thought I had a handle on this. And now you're destroying everything. Anxiety can be like, you're not thriving. Your world is too small. Like most of the time that I've spoken to people and they're anxious, their world has gotten too small and they're not thriving. And the unconscious is looking at them and going, this person is going to be in this situation in 5 years' time. And that sucks because I'm low down on the hierarchy in my social status. Issue some depression, issue some anxiety, issue some rage. Are you sure we want to send that out, Captain? Well, we've got to do something. This fucking idiot is not taking action. They're not doing anything. They're just playing video games, watching soaps, drinking, taking drugs. Do something so the emotions come up from. So one useful skill set to have in life as a human being is to try and take our emotions from the low resource, harsh environment of the savannas, which is where we are evolved, by the way. Like, so, wait, let's see, it's backwards for me. Left hand, right hand. Okay, there we go. So this is where we evolved. Savannah, 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 savannah. Massive amounts of death, disease, torture. Most people they're going to die of disease. They're going to die of their foot falling off. Their teeth are going to drop out. They're going to starve to death. They're going to get some weird disease, and they die of death. And then you have like this, and then this is like, oh no, we have medicine and bread and farming, yay! But this, you would need to times this by probably 20 times to get to this. So what you are is an apex predator wandering the savannas in a loincloth with your favorite spear and your stone axe, looking for stuff to eat so that you can raise your social hierarchy. That is your emotions. All of your emotions go back to hug. Got an interview with Stefan Molyneux, 50 minutes. I better prepare for it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your time and for your attention. I hope that was useful, and I very much look forward to speaking to you all soon. Cheerio, ta-ta.